Well, it is by the melting of the ice, but it is a seasonally delayed thing. Here's what happens, okay? And here's what a lot of people get really screwed up on, and it's pretty straightforward. But, all right, so it's getting warmer, okay? And what is happening is that we're not growing as much ice in winter as we used to be. We're melting a heck of a lot more in summer than we used to, okay? So now what happens now is that if we look at the end of summer, end of the melt season in the Arctic, September, say, okay? And specifically September, what you find is that there's much, much more open water than there used to be. But what has happened is because that open water is very dark, it's been absorbing a lot of solar heat through the summer. Okay? So what happens now is, okay, it's picked up all that heat through the summer, through those open water areas. So now, of course, the sun sets in the Arctic, of course, in the winter, right?
Right.
So now you've got this ocean with all this heat in it that it didn't used to have, okay? Autumn comes, the sun sets in the Arctic, that heat gets released back to the atmosphere, okay? And so what's happening is the atmosphere gets warmed because the ocean is losing its heat back to the atmosphere. That's why you get this big warming in the Arctic in the autumn and through the winter, okay? Because it's releasing that heat back, okay? So you say it's related to the ice melt. Yes, it is, but actually there's a seasonal lag to it, you see. It's actually, the ice is melting in summer, exposing all this dark open ocean, picking up all this heat, and then autumn comes, the sun sets, that heat's got to go back to the atmosphere, and that's what it does. And that greatly warms up the Arctic relative to where it used to be. Okay? In other words, relative to, say, where we were 30 years ago. Okay? And what's happening is that is starting to change the sort of basic temperature gradients in the atmosphere, okay, that I talked about before.
Right.
And so if you do that, okay, the thinking is, okay, that could actually let this cold air in the Arctic kind of start to spill south, okay? Now, you say, well, hasn't the air been warmed? Yes, it has. Okay, it's still cold air, though, right?
Right.
Right. But, that's the thinking. The thinking is that to put it another way, we've put it now a heat source in the Arctic that there didn't used to be. And if we do that, the thinking is the atmosphere, the circulation in the atmosphere responds to that. It feels that heating and responds to that. And one possible outcome of that is you get this sort of pattern that you're seeing here for the last couple of winters, okay, that you've had cold and snowy over the eastern U.S., especially over in Europe, okay, but at the same time, this extremely warm Arctic. So it's a funny thing, because if we think about, that's basically it in a nutshell.